Well, when it comes to Friesen Performance IMCA Modifieds, he's one of the toughest customers in the Pacific Northwest. We have on the Beyond the Flags podcast, the one they call Superman, Collen Winebarger, representing Corbett, Oregon. And he talks about his partnership with Schram Motorsports, their successes in 2024, as well as a lot of cool stories, including how he got the nickname Superman and how he got his start in racing and those first years in IMCA modified action. That's coming up next. But before we get to the interview, make sure we try to do this or watching from, you hit the like button and subscribe so that you don't miss out on future episodes. And shut off the power here at the home office in Cottage Grove, Oregon. But we've got Corbett, Oregon's Collen Winebarger on the phone. And Collen, it's always great to talk to you, even when the weather was a little shaky there.
Yeah, no, I'm glad. Hopefully Mother Nature will let this one happen.
Exactly. This Pacific Northwest unpredictable weather. Well, speaking of the Pacific Northwest, picking up a crown jewel win for the third time in your career, second time under Speedway Motors IMCA weekly racing program sanctioning the Northwest Modified Nationals at Grays Harbor Raceway on July 13th. You guys had a flawless week in there, and on the final night, the 40-lap feature goes flag to flag, nonstop, and you in the Schram Motorsports fielded entry just dominated the competition.
Yeah, no, it was a really good weekend start to finish. Had a really good car, and which always helps, and just kind of had sometimes you have those weekends when things just go right. There's a couple things, that just went exactly as good as they could, and got to start on the pole on Saturday, which made it nice. No yellows. Right front upper control arm breaks in half with like 18 laps to go. And no yellows come out. I mean, there was definitely, it was just a good weekend. We definitely had some luck to go with, we had a really good car too, but, it takes the whole package to have a weekend like that.
No doubt. You won the race in 2022 and you did it in 2019. And it's just, it's something that it's outside the realm, I guess, of when it comes to size of racetracks in this area in between Oregon and Washington, where it's listed as a 3/8, but my goodness, it's a big wide 3/8. I would say, I always thought that it was more of a half mile than anything.
It's definitely the biggest thing we get to race on around here. So I always enjoy it. It's usually just once, maybe twice a year we go up there, and I do enjoy it. It's big. They kind of have like their own group of cars that race, there, and maybe Skagit, like they kind of stay in Washington a lot. So you race against different people, and a handful of the Oregon guys we always go up there for their big races, and try to support them. They paying good money. I mean, pretty fortunate in the Northwest to get to race as many times a year as we do for a decent purse. I mean, $7,500 to win it. Realistically, I don't know how many IMCA modified races there are all year in the country that pay that much. It's not super normal. So just thankful for them guys to put up the money and continue to work on their programs. When we go up there, it's a good time.
Overall, 2024 has treated you rather well. You swept the Memorial Day weekend at Willamette Speedway, and then got yourself a couple of victories during the IMCA Wild West Speed Week, including a Monday night stop at Coos Bay, and then Cottage Grove Speedway, a couple nights later, and you ended up winning the championship for the second time in your career for the modified portion of IMCA Wild West Speed Week. So, I mean, all things said, you and this team have gelled so well, being partnered up together in 2024.
Yeah, just getting to drive really good race cars. We still race quite a bit, but in compared to previous years, we've raced way less than is typical, and for a lot of different reasons, just life and work and kids and weather and whatnot. And I don't know, part of it's kind of a blessing in disguise, because between that and having really good help and really good sponsors and really good car owners. Like every time we unload, we're driving really good race cars. So that's always step one. And sometimes, especially once you get into the season a little ways, that can kind of go to the wayside a little bit, right? You skip on some details or got to rush a little bit to get everything done in the week. And we just haven't had to really do that yet. There's been enough weeks off and that we've just had to be able to cross all our T's and dot all our I's most weeks when we unload. And I think it's really helped across the board.
Well, and to win that Speed Week title for the second time, that had to feel pretty special. I mean, it was very special for you to finally get one in 2021. I just remember the relief off of your guys, from you guys, that final night in Elma to get the big check and the big trophy, and then to do it again. And as you said, to do it, rather remarkable to do it running more so of a selected schedule than a full out, 50, 60 race schedule.
Yeah, no, it was. I mean, ran that tour a lot of years and lost it in a lot of ways. And this year, I don't know, it was honestly, we kind of always want to win more. Only winning 2 on the week. It was just several nights that we just weren't good enough, but we were good enough to be super consistent. And just needed things to fall our way, redrew relatively bad. I mean, I think there was 5 of the nights we drew a 10 or higher. And just some nights you're just, you got to be good enough to overcome the track position situation. So it was good. It was a great week. I mean, almost minimal no damage. I knocked the deck out the first night in Wairika when we were having some carburetor issues, and I just had a dumb moment. But I think aside from that, I don't think we took a body panel off to straighten it the rest of the week. So hard to race 7 days in a row and have that. So nothing to complain about for sure.
Well, and it's so cool to see that continuation of the support that you get from the Schram family. You drove for Jimmy for a couple of seasons there, and now with the Schram Motorsports 16. Those are some folks that have played a very big role. Although they haven't been maybe a car owner for you for most of your career, they've been with you pretty much every step of the way.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand. I mean, even going back to when it was it was just my dad and I and my grandpa, and then there was just some people that would come and hang out every once in a while, right? Jimmy and Jerry, they still played a part even then, in one way or another. In my first late model, I think we got in 2000, 11 maybe. And that car came from Jerry, and he just made it possible, right? We dropped Pierre to pay Paul to make it all happen, and so on, right? There's just been a lot of stuff, and then getting together with Jimmy, and we did some stock car stuff together, and our modified stuff together started. My stuff was in the Midwest one summer. We went back, raced a little bit, and then flew home for a month or two. And I was just kind of hanging out and racing around. He's like, "Hey, come get this modified and race it. We'll go racing." And we did, and had a blast. And then that kind of turned into this crazy, let's go late model racing again, which has been super fun. I'm super thankful for that opportunity. And then Jerry and I getting together on this modified adventure it's been super fun. And I'm definitely super thankful for them guys for giving me, I mean, as good of equipment as you could really ask for. Certainly at least as good, if not better than everyone else's. And that's finding guys willing to give you that chance is it's a big deal. It's a huge deal. Definitely thankful.
Well, and I know that you're not that role as a hired gun, so to speak, not an unfamiliar role. You've been in that situation before. I know that, when you ran a lot in California or even in Arizona, Chad Rickenback, Bakersfield-based team, the C9, they put you in the seat, and you guys had a decent run together at some of the specials they had down there.
Yeah, C9 was super fun, and that was that started as not even a relationship. I think I ended up getting in a car wreck. The first night I was supposed to drive it, we were going to go to lunch and at least meet each other beforehand. And we got in a car wreck on the way down there. So we showed up, and I think Chad and I met each other about 35 minutes before Hot Laps rolled out. And it just took off from there. And it was super cool. Racing for Chad, just some of the southern stuff here, when we go to Southern California or, Vegas or Arizona, all my friends from the Midwest are like, oh, we're going to come over to your neck of the woods this winter and go race. And I always chuckle, when I tell them that, that's not really my neck of the woods. They don't understand how far we are up here, really. Arizona's like halfway. It's almost exactly as long for us to get there as people from Iowa to get there. We're not really close to anything. So it just traveling expenses, it all adds up, and Chad gave me the opportunity that we could just race more down there. I didn't have to drive back and forth, just hop on an airplane, and it being just as good of equipment as my own for sure. And we had a lot of fun doing it. He's kind of stepped back from the racing scene and semi-retired, and we still chat monthly, just about racing. It made a lifelong friendship, and all this stuff always does. It's amazing how racing will do that. But it definitely played its role there.
Well, I'll never forget one of the times you went to Bakersfield. I think it was 2017, winning the Bud Nationals and getting one of those coveted guitars. I just remember your post of, I've been trying to win one of these things for so long, and then you finally did it.
Yeah, no, it was super cool. And just going to do stuff. I mean, I've been pretty fortunate to, especially up and down the West Coast, to get to go and race at, most all the bigger events and have some success. And yeah, that guitar, it's still up on the wall. It is, that race is hard to get to, being right before Vegas, and it's still quite a ways down there. And the pay is what it is. I always kept going back because I have a red guitar. I always want a blue guitar. Now they don't do the guitars anymore, so there's a little less pressure to have to go down there.
Well, I remember 2021, even you guys, you're talking about going to the Midwest, and you were a part of that Land of 10,000 Lakes, was a 3-4 day deal that they had in Minnesota. I think obviously Speedway Motors IMCA Super Nationals fueled by Casey's. You even won a qualifying night and had a chance to start on the pole in 2022. I mean, it's really cool to see you and guys like Gray Ferrando and other drivers that have went back to the Midwest and not just there to just be a back marker or just a car in the pits, but to be a threat to win and a name to follow.
No, it's super cool. It makes it makes you feel like all this crazy amount of work and money, and it's a little punny, but blood, sweat, and tears we put into this hobby. Mm-hmm. You go back there and compete against guys that literally do it for a living, right? And on a big stage like that where you get some recognition, it's cool. It makes it all worthwhile and seem like it's all worth it.
And you guys did Dakota Mod Tour like at least once, right? I think maybe a couple times.
I've done it twice. Yeah. I like going up there. It's fun. That's a crazy tour with a lot of traveling, and both the years we went were COVID years, so we never got to go into Canada.
Oh, okay.
And I watch, and Estevan looks actually like it looks pretty cool. I'd like to get back up there and get to hit that one too. Yeah,
somebody was telling me that if you can imagine Boone north of the border, that's just the amount of love as well as seriousness they take their track prep. And actually was just they had a 2-day show this last week, and I was just finishing up their race reports, and my gosh, like, it's just holy smokes, these guys get after it. I mean, they've got some great local talent there and some guys that come up from North Dakota that race there on the weekly.
Yeah, no, we doing traveling stuff is always super cool. It's just the way of the world, everything's still getting more and more expensive. So we've kind of had to dial it back a little bit, and just other things in life happening, and playing with our late models here, and saving up to do some winter late model racing. We really enjoy, and just kids and softball and cage karts, and it's just there's no shortage of stuff going on. So
Sure.
we hit what we can. Hopefully it all comes around. We can get to go do all that stuff again, and maybe even go do some other new stuff that we haven't got to hit yet.
Yeah. Hey, Clash on the Coast. You could talk the family in that for some nice, a nice week in sunny Florida.
Yeah, no, it might happen. Just to hang out with Peyton in the game for a week, that might be worthwhile.
Yeah. Well, I mean, talking about the beginning, I remember you guys, Salem Indoor Speedway. That's the first time I saw you, got to meet you. You had kind of the what was the in thing at the time, kind of the I don't know what you classify it as, the Justin Bieber shaggy kind of hairstyle going on, but micro sprints. That's the first time I ever saw you wheel a car, and you were quite young, but you went into a division that was loaded with a capital L.
Yeah, no, I did. I probably would have been a little bit faster if I would have cut my hair. You're right on that one, but it was micro sprints. Then I wish, we're doing cage kart stuff with my daughters, and I wish micro sprint racing was now what it was then. Summer and winter time, just because it was pretty cool. Like, there were some super big names that are still, kicking ass in 360 and 410 stuff all over the place. So it was pretty fun. That was my very first. That's kind of abnormal. My family and I, we didn't know. We never did like go-karts or flat karts or cage karts. We didn't know about any of that. And the micro sprint thing just kind of happened. We're like, well, this would be pretty cool. And we get there and kind of realize that's not typically the starting point.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I was 10 or 11. I think maybe my first race was like the week of my 11th birthday. And that was the first time I had driven like anything. So it was pretty cool. And then we continued to do that for a couple summers and winters. And then I finally got old enough, I guess I was 12, where they had like a kids class out at Banks. Was like used street stocks, and we built this old Camaro. And I think like I had raced there the week prior in a micro sprint, and I don't know, I think we did like 12 ones or something in qualifying, and then we get there with the Camaro, and we're in like 16 fives. Actually hit the fence. It was completely different. So it was cool. And then that fast forward into racing the street stock division and the modified division, and then we went crate late model racing, and kind of let that finally started to kind of fizzle out, and so we backstep. IMCA kind of came into the Pacific Northwest at that point, so we kind of stepped back and headed in the IMCA direction, and got to race a lot all over the place. And just kind of been going to today, where we just kind of race whatever we can, whenever we can, and have a good time.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, you were transitioning into the modifieds. Well, like, I remember when IMCA was coming in, like it's like a before and after thing, like whether it be 9/11 or certain big events that happen in the world. It just seemed like it was a whole different world before IMCA came in back into the modern era, 2013. They'd been in Oregon in the 90s, the early to mid 90s, but then, coming in, like, that was such a big deal, because prior to that, I mean, you look at Speed Week starting in 2011, that was back in the day when pretty much each track had their own set of rules. There wasn't really a lot of uniformity, and it's so hard to believe that wasn't that long ago, like a little over 10 years ago. And now it seems like, how would we function without IMCA? I think it's did, there's naysayers and everything, and I get that. But for me, I'm a supporter of it because it brings uniformity to the rules, and then it's brought, it gathers a lot of cars from a lot of different places where they don't have to fiddle with little niche rules.
Yeah, no, it's been, there's plenty of things that people find negative about it, and some of them they might even have a little bit of a point, but any negatives that are legitimate so far are so outweighed by the positives of having the rules, everyone on the same stuff, everyone following the same rules, being able to just go race any racetrack you want on any given night, not have to worry about it. It's done so much for this region of the country. It's huge. And even right now, weekly racing is a little bit of a struggle, but I think that's kind of a national thing. But specials racing, I don't know the numbers, you probably do, honestly, but like Speed Week this year, I'm not sure. I think it's been years since we've averaged that many cars every night of a tour.
Yeah.
Especially with stock cars and sport mods, they really came out swinging, and none of that would be possible without everyone being on the same page under a sanctioning body like IMCA.
Oh, no doubt. I remember the days. Daniel Ray and I were just talking about this. There was a day when you would go to and watch a local Sunoco IMCA stock car race. There might be only like 2 or 3 guys, or same deal with the Friesen Performance IMCA Northern Sport Mod. Sometimes one guy would show up. It took some time, but with, tender loving care and all that, and just sticking with it, the plan that this is going to work, this is going to be great. Like, it just eventually just exploded. And granted, things happen, economy and COVID, it seems like there's some things that are still kind of recovering from COVID, financially wise for some folks, but for the most part, holy cow, things are going in a good direction, I believe.
Yeah, no, I think it is what it is. It's a very tough sport. It's one that's very demanding, especially financially. So we just got to keep racers going, and got to keep new racers coming in. It's a telltale too. A lot of these racetracks I've been going to lately around here, I feel like the Hornet car count is up. And street stocks, when they all get together, there's a ton of them. Some people moving back down in the street stocks seems a little weird, but that's a completely another conversation. Those guys, so they can come up, and then the next wave can come in and try to buy all those cars and get into the sport. I don't think it's a dying sport, but I think it has everything it needs to be a dying sport. It's just tough, right? And I think right now we're trending in a good direction. I hope we just keep people involved and gaining on it, and it can keep going up from here.
Are you looking to find that adrenaline rush, but you can't because you're not at the racetrack? Well, check out the IMCA TV Replay subscription library to have access to thousands of hours of racing for just $24.99 a month. Relive all the moments of the Speedway Motors IMCA Super Nationals fueled by Casey's at Boone Speedway, the Harris Clash at Deer Creek Speedway in Spring Valley, Minnesota, the IMCA TV Winter Nationals at Cocopah Speedway in Somerton, Arizona, Florida's Clash on the Coast, and dozens of Speedway Motors IMCA weekly racing program racetracks from across the nation, as well as the IMCA TV Dirtcast podcast. Plus, 25% of that $24.99 monthly fee goes towards the Drivers Point Fund and is a great way to help out your local racers. In 2023, over $97,000 was paid out to IMCA drivers directly at over 50 racetracks across the country. Please note that live broadcasts are not part of the replay subscription. That's IMCA TV. IMCA TV, where America comes to watch racing. Well, I remember when you first started racing, you were 1W, and I remember I think one of the first questions was, is this Winebarger or Winebarger? But we've established that. It's not Collen Winebarger. So, but you went under the quote, the number, or however you want to categorize it, Superman. How did that all start? That was like your calling card. People were thinking you were like Clark Kent's cousin, I'm sure, for a couple of years there.
Yeah, it was, it just it just kind of started. Like, it started actually in the sand dunes. I used to spend a lot of time at the dunes and on quads, and was decent at and always willing to try something stupid, no matter what could happen.
Sure.
And people kind of they would call me that every once in a while or whatever, and it kind of stuck. And then all of a sudden we were putting it on like the spoilers of the car, and then the crate, we decided, well, let's just get rid of the number and we'll just make it S, and at this point I'm pretty young, and then like Greg Walters and I were racing back and forth and the crate late model stuff, and so he put Batman on his car, and we kind of got this thing. It mostly turned into a thing where like the kids, it was such a big thing, right? With the kids, and then it even when we traveled, it was hard, traveling a little bit. We weren't sure what to do because I didn't want it to come across as arrogant, right? Especially at the beginning there, we're literally driving around, going to all these races, even whether at the very start, right? Vegas, Arizona, and we're just getting our asses kicked. And we got a Superman on the side of the car. Now, that's a little humiliating, right? But the name recognition actually, I think, helped way more than it hurt. Everyone kind of remembered it, right? I mean, it wasn't just that blue car from Oregon or that, number one car. There's every big event, there's 72 number ones, right? Mm-hmm. So like, it kind of put name to the face to a name, I guess.
Building your own brand a little bit.
Yeah. And I think it did kind of, it helped. And then now just kind of going around, I was 14. There was a short time in there, and it was a long time ago, 2010 maybe. Mm-hmm. The first time I started racing a modified, I think I was 13, 14, probably 14. And my dad was racing. He was number 1W. So we couldn't both be 1W. And I don't know how it came up, but we decided that, let's do 14. I liked it. All right. So we did 14, and then, I don't know, 3 or 4 races went by, and my dad crashed his car, and I was driving a spare car, right? Well, I had, like, we were kind of right on pace and doing pretty good. And, thankfully, he didn't take my car away from me. And instead, at that time, you could have, like, team drivers and stuff, right, for the points. So we peeled the 4 off and made it 1W again. And that was the whole lifespan of the 14 thing. And then it's kind of been fun. We got back we put this super late model together, which I guess would have been 2 years ago now, 22. And we were going to try to go super racing. And I certainly wasn't going to show up at a race with the best national dirt late model drivers in the country, including Jonathan Davenport, with a Superman symbol on the side of the car. Mm-hmm. That's calling your shot way too much, and you're probably not going to do it. So I was like, hey, let's do the 14 again. So we did the 14 on the supercar, 14S, so it's got a little Superman on it, and it's been kind of fun. And now we just drive so many different cars. Everyone always gives me crap, especially the fans. They're trying to figure out whether it's S or 22S or 16 or 14 or whatever. It's I don't get too wound up about what the number on the side is anymore.
You're going to be like one of those non-wing drivers that drives for one guy for USAC, and at Bloomington Weekly you got this guy, and then when you go to Lawrenceburg Weekly, you're in another car.
Hey, it's good work if you can get it.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's really cool. And the story of your dad being number 1, do you happen to know that or anything?
How he got to number 1?
Yeah. Why was he number 1?
So it was number 1 forever. When was it? So he had like a 02 car way back in the day, like before I was born. Mm-hmm. I saw pictures of it. And then I don't know when the number 1, I think they did it at the same time. Him and Mike Graham were like teammates. They raced out of the same shop and everything, and their cars, they painted them up the same. And I think that's when they did it, and they decided to do a 1 car and a 0-1 car.
Oh, okay.
And then I can't actually think of a time that he wasn't number 1 after that. He ran crate late models with us in like 2012, maybe.
Yes.
And I was number 1 then. And it was before the Superman thing took off. And so we couldn't both be number one. So he picked six, and he was sixth for that season. But aside from that, he's been number one forever. And I think it started when like Portland Speedway limited sportsman days, when him and Mike were teammates and wanted to kind of be the same but not.
Sure. Wow. That's that just popped in my head. I know you had told me the Superman story at one point, but it's like, wait a minute, what? He's been number one for a long time. What's the story there? But mystery solved. Now the world knows. And that Superman thing, I mean, your brother Skyler would wear the Superman socks with the little capes on the back of them. I mean, it was definitely contagious.
No, it played into it. Like I said, everyone liked it. Fans, friends, sponsors, family, everyone was all about it. And like I said, I do think that the name recognition helped. So people at least knew we were at least drawing enough attention, good, bad, or indifferent, and hopefully they just remembered the good stuff.
Yes, no doubt. As you said, you're a busy guy. You've got this racing side of things. You work for a living, and one thing that I want to bring up too is all the people that I talk to in the pits nowadays, whether it's near or far. I was on, Collen Winebarger went on the phone. He was over with the phone with me talking about my setup, and I think he's got us in a good direction. Or I just got off the phone with Collen to figure out where I need to be putting my bar placement and things like that. I really think that's so cool that you make yourself available to help these racers out, to make them better and for them to obviously be safer on the racetrack and to make the sport be more competitive.
Yeah, always trying to help and build the sport. And there's some selfish motivation there too, right? I mean, I do work Monday through Friday, and I have a great job, good career, happy with all of it. But it is certainly not a salary that can fund racing year round.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of just takes care of my family and my home life, and then I technically took over DRCP, the race car business, and set up consulting business in 2016, right out of high school. I did that actually for 2 years straight. That's all I did full time was build, repair, and make race cars faster. Some of the greatest times of my life, honestly. And so now that's nights, weekends, building new cars for people. Usually it's between 2 and 5 cars a year. And then all the customers that comes with it, that mostly just turn into friends, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you see everyone that so many people put so much into this sport. Like I'm not sure, unless you've done it, it's hard to, or seen it firsthand, it's hard to take it all in, right? So when they're struggling, you just want to help them any way you can and get them in the ballpark so they can get some of that success and want to keep going.
Well, and hearing that and everything on top of it, you're a family man. You've got a young family, and no doubt that that has huge. I get it, the song and dance, but for some people that don't like it, small victories, right? Anytime you can get ahead in life, even if it's just for a couple hours, it feels so good. And for you to be there for your family, and like you said, softball and being there for your kids and stuff, it definitely special, even though it can be quite difficult.
Yeah, no, my wife and kids are, I'm a pretty fortunate fella. The amount of time they do put into all this and the business side of it and the racing side of it, and going to work every day. They have to share a lot with a lot of different things, and fortunately, we do a pretty good job, in my opinion, of keeping it family oriented. My girls go with me almost every race, and every weekend. And when we're not racing, it's because there's a softball tournament, or we're going to the sand dunes, or we're going camping, or we're doing something. And even when we race, we try to turn it into most weekends that we do race, it's 2+ days. So we try to make sure that we turn that into a whole camping thing, right? And we bring stuff and the dogs and everyone has fun, and so it's definitely it's a balancing act. But there's since I was little, I've kind of always been taught there's nothing more important than family, so we try to just do it together and have fun.
Well, no doubt about that. And what's really cool, I think, is that you're able to, you mentioned it, take them to the races with you, and for them to kind of be around you, whether in the transport, the hauler, or watching you from the pit stands. In our modern culture of racing, to me, that's still kind of a new deal, because I grew up, and I'm sure you did too, like, it was strict. You had to be this age. You weren't allowed in the pits. There was no exceptions. The only time I really saw that around here was like when the World of Outlaws would come by and they had kids with them. Well, their kids, they couldn't shoo their kids out of they're basically home on the road, their motor coaches and stuff. So I think letting kids in, I know there's naysayers about that, but I think it's great because it allows families to bond with other families. I've bonded with people, but you've seen me with my kids, and they interact with other people's kids, and it makes us closer from the family aspect.
I would say a majority of both my daughter's best friends, the relationships have came from racing. I'd say majority of my best friends, the race relationships have came from racing. Anyone that says this isn't a family sport either doesn't know, or they haven't been in the sport very long, and they're not going to be in the sport very long, because it takes way too much not to make it somewhat. There's a reason, wintertime you go down to the go-kart track and you see all these, race car guys with their kids getting them into it, because it's the only way it's going to happen, right? I was right there with you. I mean, from the time I was 8 or 10 years old, we would try to cheat the system, and, I wasn't 16. I didn't have white pants on, so I couldn't be in the pit.
I was going to say white pants was, I would want to think probably Willamette was one of the last places. White pants was, there was no exceptions for places like that. And if you didn't, it's like, see you next week, try again.
Yeah, we've definitely, as a community, we've definitely taken the right steps to make this more of a family deal for sure. And I'm thankful, like I said, having my family with me has actually made it more fun, more relaxing, right? Especially when we're off racing as much as we are right now. It just makes it more fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I believe that is the hardest of being on the road or traveling every weekend is you miss home, you miss your family, and with them immediately right there with you, it doesn't make you as emotional, let's just say, or or worried too, of like, I hope everything's okay back at home.
Yeah, no, it's definitely the way to go, and it's the only way anymore. Now that we kind of went down this road, I had to change up the toter home situation and stuff even this last winter, just because everyone's got to have fun, or it's going to be hard to keep doing it every weekend. Yes,
no doubt. You talk about home, Corbett. That's where as long as I've known you, that's where you've been billed from. And 2016, I had the pleasure of going to Corbett on my way to Edmonton, Alberta one time, and it's a nice little neat community. Multnomah Falls is right there. Multnomah Falls is one of my favorite places. I could just sit there for hours and watch those huge waterfalls in the Columbia Gorge for, as I said, a really, really long time.
Well, fortunately with racing, I had the opportunity to travel around a lot of the country, which is I'm pretty fortunate, and I can say pretty matter of fact that there's not really anywhere more beautiful than the Pacific Northwest. Mm-hmm. And Corbett's no exception. We're out here a ways, but you're still only 25 minutes from downtown Portland, where I kind of work in the Portland metro area. every day. And yeah, it's been home for the city's been home for almost town. Hard to call it a city.
Yeah.
There's a post office, a fire station, a little market, and the phone company, a water district building, and a really good school district. Besides that, there's no stores, there's no anything. So
sure, country living.
Yeah, it's been home for 20 years, and I wouldn't change it for the world. If there's a lot of things in Oregon that I don't agree with, which we won't get into.
Sure. Yeah.
But where I live is not one of them. I love it here.
Well, and I've been to the market. On my trip there, I had to stop and grab something to eat, and I've you know this. I've told you that I stopped there, and it's like, holy smokes, I had to been really close in the proximity of where you guys live.
Yeah. From that market, you're about 2.5 minutes.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's fortunate a lot of things, and where we get to live is definitely on the list.
And you guys had a really scary situation a few years ago with a wildfire, right? Like it was I don't know if you want to classify it as arson, but it was just basically some guy being a moron with some fireworks. Yeah,
fireworks about 20 miles away, and I think by the time they finally got it loaded up, it was we decided it was like 3 miles up the road. It was crazy. They it was definitely an interesting situation. I was actually Audrey and I were just dating at that point, and I was actually staying at her house. We had raced the night before in Lebanon, and I stayed at her house, and my phone rang at like 2 a.m, and they said, "Hey, the sheriff just came up and said you got to go." So I hopped in my truck and drove up here, and it was pretty trippy. And it was literally pick what's important to you and roll out, because it might not be there when you get back.
Well, and there's not a lot of roads. It's not like a major road system. It's basically up and like there's one road that goes up and down, and the other one that goes, east to west.
Yeah, no, there's not a ton. I mean, more than it burning in the middle of the mountains. But yeah, it was. I assumed they were going to get it stopped, but we turned sprinklers on and made sure that anything that we left that was important was at least insured. And
sure.
I think we raced with the World of Outlaws on like Wednesday that week. And I remember driving down the driveway, and I was like, well, gonna go racing. We'll see what happens. And fortunately, it was all here. We had to put all the stuff that we took back, but
sure.
It was just a little bit of manual labor.
Well, for people that have never been there, Corbett area or even in Multnomah Falls, like what are some other cool things to see? I mean, looked like there's some great hiking and a lot of cool outdoor stuff to do.
Ton of hiking, ton of waterfalls, ton of scenery. There's people that drive from a long ways away just to ride their motorcycle up the main highway right here, that we get to see every day. Mm-hmm. Besides that, you're really not, you better just want to take it all in. There's a really cool race car shop that we built here. Besides that, it's very low key, but it sure is pretty.
Well, this has been just a fantastic interview to get. Maybe there's some listeners that they've heard of you, but they didn't know the story. As we wrap things up, people that you want to thank and sponsors that you want to acknowledge that have made 2024 possible.
My entire family. It just goes a long ways back. Anyone that gets started in this young like me, the sacrifices that my parents made to make it all happen, my grandparents, everyone that I even knew. There were so many people involved that really got the ball rolling. Could definitely never thank them enough. And then my wife, my girls now, like I said, they put up with a lot of BS from me on a pretty regular basis, and I'm super thankful for it. And then Bradley Newsom, he's been kind of my right hand man, crew chief role, moral support buddy for years. and there's not very many races that he doesn't go to. And when we're together doing it, it just seems like everything clicks, just like it should, you know. When my brothers come and help, and there's always other people, Steven, there's other people that dip in and out, here or there and make it all possible as well. But the main group there, I could never thank them enough or think I could do this without them. And then, of course, every car owner I've ever drove for, but, you know, right now, Jerry and Jimmy, they, like I said, they just give me awesome race cars to drive on a regular basis, and super thankful for it. And the whole Schram Motorsports camp, it's fun. We've kind of turned into a little team, and it's been a good time. And Schram Brothers Excavation, John Gainer, Swan Island Sheet Metal, he's turned into one of my very best friends and a great supporter, for sure. That anytime I need him, he'll jump whenever he needs to, and I always appreciate it. Dawn and Laura Schott, Sydney Schott, Checkered Flag Asphalt, they damn near from the start, same thing, kind of started as a customer and turned into a very good friend, which turned into one of my greatest supporters. And same thing, anytime I get myself in a kink, they're always there to help me and bail me out. And I appreciate it a lot. The Bailey family, they've been since pretty much the whole start, they've been there and always will help whenever it's necessary. Devin Reed's Automotive, we've turned into very good friends, and man, he'll do the same thing. Anytime I'm in a tight spot or whatever, those are the people that really make it so it can all happen. And 1-2 Wraps, Josh and Jessica Combs, they always keep our cars looking really good. And we're getting Wrap guys have a way, and they break the mold. I tell them when I need it, and they have it here by then. I'm always super appreciative. Northwest Platinum Trucking, obviously DRCP, everyone involved in making that a success. And that's just who we got right now. Been racing for a long time now, getting kind of turned into one of the old guys. So everyone and anyone that's helped along the way has really, only way this has even been kind of possible. So definitely could never thank all them guys enough.
Well, I meant to ask you this earlier. For people that want to support you in your efforts, I know that it does help in the long run, but do you have any apparel that folks can purchase, or is that something that might be later down the line?
Yeah. Right now it's very slim pickings. Like, we don't even have anything online, a little very select at the racetrack, but I actually just this week I saw the final proofs of the next round of shirts. So we're going to get some shirts and hoodies and hats back in the trailer and get the online store going, and absolutely try to sell some t-shirts and keep people looking good.
Awesome. Well, sounds wonderful. I thank you again, Collen, for coming on and doing this interview. It's always great to talk to you, and it's been a pleasure to watch you as your career started all those years ago at Salem to blossom to what it's become now. And I'm excited to see where it's going to take you in the years to come. Absolutely. We appreciate what you do for racing around here, Ben, for sure. And doing stuff like this is just part of it. Thanks. Well, race fans, that does it for this interview. We hope you enjoyed it, and we hope that you continue to enjoy these upcoming interviews. We appreciate it if you would like and subscribe wherever you're listening, whether it's on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, wherever it's at. Give us a like and give us a subscription so that we can deliver more of these great interviews to you for your listening pleasure. In the meantime, wherever we're at, wherever you're listening, we hope you have a great rest of your day and a pleasant evening, and we will see you soon here at Highside Racing Promotions.